Welcome to the Storytime Adventures for Adults video series. Today we will be reading Part 1, 1730, pages 69 to 72 from Songs from the Depths by Meg Swanson. Left, right, tighten, creak. Left, right, tighten, creak. Left, right, tighten, creak. The woman in the chair stopped rocking, and her dull eyes lifted over the dusty loom sitting under the cloudy window. The song got louder. It always got louder when she looked at it. Louder still when she reached out to stroke the wood. She sighed. It became an unbearable screeching when she tried to remember how to use it. Left, right, tighten, creak. Left, right, tighten, creak. Left, right, tighten, creak. Some days she had enough determination to fight through the never-ending music and sit at the loom. Once she even had the strength of will to take wool down and try to string the loom. She screamed in pain as she forced her hands through motions that once had come so naturally to her. People on the street stopped to stare at her through the window she never bothered to clean anymore. She didn't care. Her life had been taken from her. And for what? She strained to remember, but all she could hear was that damn song. Finally, she dropped the fiber and fell to the floor, sobbing. She raked her nails down her face, leaving red trails in the hollows of her cheeks. She pounded her fists on the floor, screaming. Who could leave a person this way, rip away her life's passion and leave only a song that never stopped? It was all-consuming. Eating, dressing, working, nothing mattered. She had to consciously remind herself through all of the noise to do each of those things, and even sometimes to breathe. Even now, just thinking about the pain she put herself through to do everything she remembered loving, the song grew louder in her head and blocked everything out. She started rocking again. Left, right, tighten, creak. Left, right, tighten, creak. Left, right, tighten, creak. Rocking in time with the music that no one else could hear. The woman gripped the armrest of her chair until her knuckles turned bone white. She glared out of the window into the town square. That's where she set up. That's where she ruined everything. Market day. Constance smiled as she opened her door and positioned the rock to hold it ajar. It was her favorite day, especially in the late spring before it became too hot to do anything but sit and hope for sales, and after the crushing business of the winter when everyone in town wanted new cloaks and shawls. The late spring was when she was able to weave mostly for herself and allowed herself time to chat with townspeople who came in to visit and bring her news of her neighbors. She sat at her loom and smiled at the fabric she was creating, a rug for her hearth. Decorative rugs were a luxury. They were usually made from fabric that was one step away from the rag pile. Strips of the warm material were braided and stitched together with a thick needle and sturdy wool thread. She sold all the supplies needed to make one of those types of rugs. Instead of rags, this one was woven together from pieces of old dresses that she could no longer wear. Every row of every color held a special place in her memory. The strips of fabric were mostly made of wool, but there were a few that were cotton. She didn't think that the cotton strips would hold up very long, but she loved the different textures that they created. With each over-under motion, back and forth, she could imagine how the firelight would illuminate the colors. She smiled to herself. "Wool gathering, Miss Constance?" Constance blinked and smiled into the face of her most favorite customer. "It would seem that way, Mrs. Howell." Sarah Howell was smartly dressed in a white blouse with a blue skirt that covered her tattered black lace-up boots. She wore a shawl that matched the skirt. It was held in place by a pin that had an opulent pearl accented fleur-de-lis at its top. It was an extravagance that Constance knew Sarah had inherited from her mother, an antique with which she would never part, no matter how dire her family situation became. Sarah was Constance's favorite customer, not because she regularly purchased from Constance, quite the contrary, in fact. It was Constance who purchased wool from Sarah's husband. It was the roughest wool of the surrounding farms, but still she bought as much as she could afford. It was this wool that she spun into the heavy-duty rug yarn. That was all it was good for. No, Sarah was Constance's favorite because of the friendship that they had cultivated over the handful of years they had known each other. The core of their friendship was the news Sarah always brought with her. Babies who were born, mothers who needed a little extra love because their babies didn't make it, what new musicians and players would be visiting. Sarah knew it all. None of it was idle gossip. Sarah did not spread malicious rumors. She only came in with news that she had gotten from the source. It was a rare quality to Constance's mind, and one that made her day all the brighter when Sarah sat and watched Constance work. Sarah sat down in the rocking chair opposite the loom and arranged her skirts carefully over her ankles. "Did you hear? There's a musician comin'." Constance looked up. "I did hear that. He's supposed to be a fan of the drink from what I understand." Sarah leaned in. No. Her eyes widened with the scandal she was about to impart. "He was found murdered on the side of the road. The woman who found him was another traveling musician, and she's the one who's coming here." This was Part 1, 1730, pages 69 to 72, from Songs from the Desk by Meg Swanson. We will continue with Part 1 on August 5th. If you can't wait until then to hear how the story goes, feel free to purchase the book at www.megswanson.me. Next week we will read Social Conundrums Part 2. If you'd like to contribute to these series, please feel free to become a patron on Patreon. Details for joining are on my website, www.reneeannhughes.com. And also, please subscribe to this YouTube channel so you won't miss any new videos. Goodbye, and thanks for listening.